If you've stumbled upon this video, I'm sure you're wondering, what are functions, macros, and custom events? And you might be thinking to yourself, which one should I use? And this video is for you. Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's another Unreal Engine 5 beginner tutorial. Trying to teach you guys the difference between macros, events, and functions, and which ones you should use in your project. If you just cracked open Unreal Engine 5, this video is definitely for you. I'm gonna hopefully give you a really good understanding of what functions, macros, and events are and do, and when you would use each one. Hopefully by the end of the video, you feel more comfortable in selecting the area in which to put your code, and I'm gonna teach you some great programming good practices so that you guys can make the best games you can. My name is Taken Grace, and I make Unreal Engine tutorials and videos just like this. So if you guys want to become a better game dev together, hit the subscribe button, join the community, and consider joining the Discord, where we have lots of game devs there to help you guys out every step of the way, beginner to advanced. All right, we're inside the project here. So what we're going to do in this project is we're going to change the color of this cubes. Not too complicated, obviously, but I do want to just illustrate what each one of these things do. So if I do simulate it, you can see that they are just randomly changing color each time I am starting the game and stopping the game. So it's a random color each time. Okay, and if I open up my content drawer and open up the blueprint that I made for this here, you can see that off of the event begin play, I am setting the material of this cube to be a random one inside this array here. Okay, all right, so right here we have an event. Okay, so this is a custom event. So if you right click and type custom event, add custom event, you can add one of these in and you can name it whatever you need to name it. Okay. This right here is a function, so you can create functions over here and just by adding a new function, and it will create one right just like that. Okay, and this one here is called a macro. Okay, so if we go inside the macro here, which you can make right on the side here just like a function, it also has the exact same nodes as in the event graph here. So how do you know which one to use? So let's first start with these two. Okay, so these two here are special because events and functions can be called from other blueprints, so you can trigger stuff to happen outside of this blueprint. An example being, if I just minimize this, and I'm going to come up here and go to my level blueprint. So I'm going to open the level blueprint here. Okay, so I've already made a set timer by event here and made an event here. So what we can do, I can click on this cube here, come back to my level blueprint and right click, and now you'll see it says create a reference to cube. So that'll be the one I clicked on. There's our cube. Now I can drag it here and I can go change cube color event or change cube color function. So I'm going to select the event for this first one. Okay. So what this node is doing is every second it's going to fire this event off and it's going to change the color of the cubes every second. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly add these cubes here as well. So this one I'm going to do the function. So change function or whatever function, can't talk. Okay, and then this one as well. Okay, create a reference to cube, and this one I'll just do the event. So you'll notice I can't call the macro. So if I go change, I named all of them pretty much something similar here. The macro is not available here. That's the only one that you cannot call from other blueprints. Macros only work in the blueprints they're made in, or a more advanced version, you can create a macro library, and you can make macros that are available throughout the entire engine. Okay, I'll get into what macros are in a little bit here, but we'll just drag out here and we'll change color to, but I'm going to just get this going here. Now we're gonna go here and we're gonna just simulate, and you'll see that every second now, the cubes are gonna change to a different color or the same color or whatever. It's picking a random one out of the three there. So sometimes it'll be the same and sometimes it won't be. All right, so that's one bonus, obviously, of the first two. So if we go back to our cube here, here's a function. So a function can be called anytime outside another blueprint, but it doesn't require it to be actually physically plugged in to an execution wire, just like these are, like events do. Events will fire off, but if there's nothing attached to it like this, it's not going to do anything. So this needs to be plugged into something. Whereas functions, whatever you have scripted inside the function will run and execute outside of an execution thing. So I can literally, in any blueprint, as long as I have a reference to the cube, I can pull that out and call that function, and it's going to set the material color, and then that's it. It's not going to do anything else. And then for the macros, so what macros are really, really good at is not only cleaning up your code, like pretty much all of both of these do. So using quite a few macros is actually a really good programming practice, but it also allows you to just not rewrite a bunch of code that you've already written before. And if you have to make any changes, you can just change it inside the macro, and then it's changing it for all of the macros that you've already placed in your event graph. Okay, so for example, I could delete this and I could put this macro up here, right? It's doing the exact same thing. I can just reuse this macro, and now, you know, later on, say, you know, we can make another custom event. We'll just say change color again. You know, just, you know, you would never do this, but just as an example, it's like, okay, well, now I want to reuse that macro here. Now that's going to be doing the exact same thing as this macro. But if I go in here and change anything about this, like maybe adding another material, for example, like how about this pink one, right? Compile, and then now both of these macros have been updated with that new color. Okay, so that's really, really great practice as a programmer in Unreal, or just any programming in general, to make macros so that you don't have to retype a bunch of code, saving you a bunch of time, and it's just a really good thing to have here. Okay, so that's what macros are, and so here come the differences now between the three of these. So let's first talk about inputs and outputs. So you can see that this event right here has an execution pin, and right over here it says inputs. Okay, so I can add any input I want here. So, you know, we'll do a name. We'll call it like the cube name, and this one will be like, you know, a text, and this will be like text. This has created basically a variable that I can plug in now. So we can just do a print string just to be, you know, super fun. Print strings are not super fun, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so here's a print string. We're gonna print the name of our cube, and we'll make the text color green. Let's do an append node actually here. Append node just combines two strings together. So we'll do the cube name, and then we'll do the text right here. All right, so if I hit compile and I go back to the level blueprint where we're calling these events, you can see now that on our event graph here, we have these two things to plug in. So we'll name this cube 1, and the text will be the cool cube. Okay, and then over here, we can make it something totally different. We can call it cube 2 or 22, sure. And we'll say this cube sucks. All right, so now when we preview our game, you'll see that this is now coming up with our things here, our print strings, every time that it's firing that event off. All right, so it said none the first time because it was running out of the event begin play. So it came out of the event begin play. It does not have those variables, so the string had nothing to print. So that's why it said none, but once we started hitting these events, it started to print these off. Okay, so that's really good way to transfer data between blueprints as well. So if you, like, again, my FPS series, if you guys are interested in that, it's available on my channel here. I pick up a gun, I need to transfer the data of what gun I picked up to another blueprint. So I'll usually do that through an event just like this. So anyways, that's events. So the one thing the event doesn't have is outputs. That's where macros and functions kind of are an improvement on that. So the outputs, what you can do there. So if you come in here, you can, for example, you know, I made the material instance here. So why don't we set that here? So we're setting whatever material it is out of here. And now I can transfer this data outside the function. So I can just drag over here and then get this little green check mark. And now that's going to add this out material or output get, but you can rename it if you want, you know, out material or something. Material. Okay, so now I can transfer this out. Now when I go back to the event graph, you can see there it is. So if I need to pass this data along to anything, that can be done. So a really good example of that is actually like an inventory. So like in my inventory, it's doing all the checks, and it's pumping out whether we successfully added the item to the inventory or not with a Boolean. So it'll pump out true or false, and then I can run different events outside that function based on what happened. So basically, you can just do all the fun, funky code inside a function and then pump out whatever you need for a variable, right? So really good. Macros the exact same way. The one benefit of a macro, though, is you can actually have two execution pins. So if I double click to open this and I go to inputs and I hit add, I can add a second execution pin right here. So we'll call this one in1, in2. Okay. What's the benefit of doing that? Well, you know, if you have a Boolean here, for example, you can come out of here and add a second one here. You can do a true, and you can do a false. And then now you're skipping a branch outside this macro. You don't need to put a branch in here in order to run a true false. You're just literally coming straight out there. Okay, so you can't do that here. If you try to add another execution pin, it actually won't let you. So it doesn't even give you the option up here to add another execution pin. And it's the same thing with the events, because the events literally only can do one thing at a time. So all right, so I'm gonna just bring your attention down here now. So I made this little cheat sheet graph. If you guys want to screenshot that, you know, there it is. Anyways, so this is all the benefits to macros, functions, and events. We're going to talk about latent actions now. What a latent action is it's an action that's happening in Unreal, kind of in the background, while other things are happening and other code is executing. Okay, so that's depicted by when the node has this little clock here. So anytime you see this little clock on any of these nodes, that means it's a latent action. So delay is a good example. So you'll see here, perform a latent action with a delay specified in seconds. So this is going to delay the code along the line here for 0.2 seconds. Meanwhile, the rest of the game is still running. Things are still happening, but it's going to delay the code here. Okay, there's a retriggerable delay. Anything with animations, animations obviously take actual time and not, you know, milliseconds or nanoseconds like the code takes to execute. And then obviously montage playing, all this kind of stuff. Okay, so these are all latent actions, but you cannot use latent actions inside a function. Okay, it literally won't let you. Like, you'll come in here, I'm going to try to call a delay node, and it literally doesn't. This is only for audios, just that's not even a thing. But anyways, yeah, so you can't get a delay node. It won't let you even put it in here at all. So anyways, back in the event graph, you'll notice that this macro, it doesn't have anything on it right now, but if I double click and I put a delay in here, there's the little clock, you know, I'll put the delay in here for whatever reason. And then we go back to the event graph. You can see the macro now has that little clock letting you know, hey, this has a latent action in it. Okay, so you can put them in macros. It just turns it into a latent node, just like these ones here. So not included in latent actions is timelines. They're totally separate. Timelines cannot be used anywhere but in an event graph like this. Okay, you can't use them in functions and you can't use them in macros. It won't even come up as an option. Okay, the reason for that, and the latent actions working in macros, I'm not entirely sure. I thought, you know, you would think that timelines are also a latent action of some variety, but at the same time, it's executing code out of the update. It's constantly running the update based on how much time you've set in this timeline, and then it comes out of finished once you've completed the timeline. So yeah, you can see here they're used for time-based animations from events that can be triggered at keyframes along the timeline. So you can use this to change 0 from 1, which is a good way to change between a lerp, it's called. So, you know, you put in value A and value B, and then the alpha is whatever one it is. So when it's at 0, it's at A, and when it's at 1, it's at B. So you can use a timeline to change this alpha from 0 to 1 slowly or gradually to transition from A to B. So yeah, that's timeline. So one extra thing I'm going to show you guys here is sometimes you need to use latent actions and sometimes you need to use timelines, but your code gets really, really messy and you just can't, you know, you don't want to deal with like the absolute disgustingness that the code will turn into. I'm sure I'll put a few examples on screen. You don't want your code to look like that. That's not good. You want to keep yourself organized here. So another way that you can do it is you can select everything that you want, right click and go collapse nodes. That's put it into essentially a sub event graph. Okay, so this event graph and the one I'm in right now technically exists in the same space, so I can't go in here and call and make a custom event and call it change cube color event. It won't let me because there's already an event that exists in here for that. Okay, so you can see that I can actually add multiple execution pins on this as well now. I'll go over here, there's an execution pin. You can move all this stuff around just like this. Okay, so you can do all that kind of stuff. All the variables come in, you can come in here. Now it has basically treat this like a macro in a sense, just with the bonus that you can use timelines in here because it'll let you call a timeline. There you go, timeline. Okay, so that's how I basically organize a lot of my stuff is subgraphs and or separate event graphs. It's really, really useful, specifically when you're using widgets, because widgets have animations, all that kind of stuff. You can't do animations inside functions. So collapsed event graphs are the next best thing for that. So at the end of the day, which one would I rather use? Events, functions, or macros? Honestly, I would use all three. I would use all three in your project. And I would get familiar with specific instances in which you would want to use them. Macros, like I said, really, really good at not making you rewrite a bunch of code. And functions are great standalone things. So in a health system, for example, you'll have gain health as a function, and then you can call gain health literally anytime you have a reference to that blueprint. You don't have to run it through an event or anything like that, right? So, and then events obviously are just going to be the backbone of your game. Like you're going to be firing off events, you know, anytime. So anyways, hopefully this video really cleared the air on what these are and what they're used for. And because I mean, I looked at macros probably for a year when I first started learning Unreal Engine, and I had not a hot clue what it was. So anyways, now I do, and hopefully you do now too. So if you guys did like the video, please like and subscribe. If you guys want to keep learning new videos, I have 2 really cool series available. I have one for making an inventory UI series, so we're going to make a fully customizable inventory along with all the UI to go with it. And then I also have a first-person shooter course going on right now that is still in progress, but we got about 12 videos out now. So if you want to learn how to make a first-person shooter, click over here. And if you want to learn how to make an inventory, click over here. Hope you guys liked the video. See you in the next one.